My brother married the woman who ruined my life, and my parents forced me to smile. I thought I escaped my painful past until my brother introduced his fiancée, the same woman who betrayed and humiliated me years earlier. My family demanded I stay quiet for peace, but I slowly uncover her real reason for marrying my brother and must decide between exposing her or protecting him. When my brother announced his engagement, everyone clapped. I smiled too because they told me to. But inside, something old and broken inside me started bleeding again. I never imagined I'd be sitting at my parents' dining table, pretending to be happy while staring at the woman who once ruined my life, now wearing my mother's engagement ring, now calling my parents mom and dad. And the worst part? They knew what she did to me. They just didn't care. Before all of this, my life was ordinary, in the quiet, safe kind of way. I lived in a small apartment above a bakery where every morning smelled like warm bread and sugar. I worked as a junior accountant in a local firm. I wasn't rich, I wasn't glamorous, but I had peace. I had routines that grounded me. Saturday laundry, Sunday dinners at my parents', late night tea when the world got heavy. My family has always been close, at least on the surface. My mother talks too loudly, my father reads his newspaper like it holds the secrets of the universe, and my younger brother Daniel, he has always been the golden one, the boy who never disappointed, the one they protected like a fragile miracle. I used to think they protected me too. Our Sunday dinners were loud and warm. There'd be roast chicken, mashed potatoes with too much butter, and my dad complaining that the world is changing too fast. Daniel would always talk about his job, his promotions, his big plans. I'd sit across from him and smile, proud of him, happy to just be part of something that felt steady. For a long time, I convinced myself that my past didn't exist anymore, that a certain name, a certain face belonged only to a dark part of my life I had locked away. I didn't tell my parents everything that happened back then. I told them enough. Enough to know I couldn't breathe near that person again. Enough to cry in my mother's kitchen one night while she held me, promising, "It's over now. You won't ever have to see her again." I believed that. I trusted them. I really wish I hadn't. The first sign wasn't a scream. It wasn't some dramatic reveal. It was a name. We were at Sunday dinner. My mother had made lasagna, the kind with too much cheese, but still somehow perfect. Daniel was restless, tapping his fork, smiling like a man with a secret he was dying to burst out with. Then he said, "I want you guys to meet someone." The room warmed a little, like excitement moved through the air. "She's incredible," he continued. "Smart, kind. She helped me through a really rough time. I think she might be the one." My mother squealed and clapped her hands. My father grinned and shook Daniel's shoulder. I smiled too because that's what you do. "What's her name?" I asked, keeping my voice casual, a small laugh attached, like I was already rooting for her. Daniel hesitated for half a second, just half a second, but I felt it. Something shifted. "Her name is Emily." The fork slipped out of my hand and hit the plate with a sharp metallic sound. My chest tightened. My ears started ringing. The room felt smaller. Emily. There are a million Emilys in the world, but there's only one whose voice still echoes in my nightmares. My mother's eyes flicked to me, just for a second, then away. That was clue number 2. She knew. She already knew, but she said nothing. I swallowed, forcing a breath into my lungs. My throat burned when I spoke. "Oh," I said softly, "that's nice." Daniel kept talking. He described her laugh, her work ethic, how thoughtful she was, how she surprised him with coffee, and remembered little things about his childhood he'd told her. How did she know those little things? He must have talked about me.
He must have shared family stories. She must have smiled and pretended. My mother overcompensated. She laughed too loudly. She peppered Daniel with questions. She avoided looking at me. My father noticed nothing. Or maybe he did, but he chose to ignore it. He usually did. That night, when I went home, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling while the bakery below prepared for morning. I listened to footsteps, machines, metal trays sliding, dough being dropped on counters. Everything in the world kept moving like normal, except me. My past wasn't as gone as I thought. It was walking toward me again, wearing heels and a perfect smile. And deep down, I already knew this wasn't going to end quietly. 2 weeks later, my parents hosted a small dinner so we could finally meet Daniel's special someone. That's how my mother phrased it in the family group chat. 3 heart emojis, a smiling face, face, nothing more. But silence can lie, and emojis can hide a war. I stood in the kitchen that evening, helping my mother slice bread, and I could feel her tension in the room like static. She moved too quickly, clouded plates, avoided eye contact. Every few minutes, she'd glance at the front door, then at me. "You don't have to stay long if it's hard," she finally whispered, her voice barely above the simmer of the pot. I froze. "So you knew?" I said quietly. She closed her eyes for a second, then nodded. "I didn't want to upset you until it was serious," she said. "But Daniel loves her. He really does. They've been together for over a year." A year. My brother had been dating the woman who destroyed me for a year, and no one thought I deserved to know. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, my voice shaking. She swallowed. "Because I knew what it would do to you. I hoped maybe enough time had passed. Maybe you could just be civil. For Daniel, please don't make a scene tonight." There it was. The family anthem. Don't make a scene. Don't disrupt harmony. Don't be the problem. I didn't answer her. I couldn't trust my voice to come out steady. The doorbell rang. My heart dropped. She was here. Daniel walked in first, all proud smiles and shining eyes. Then he stepped aside, and there she was. Emily. Time didn't replay. It didn't swell dramatically. It didn't slow. It stopped. Her hair was shorter now, more polished. She wore a cream coat and delicate earrings. Her perfume reached me before her voice did. Soft, floral, deceptively gentle. Her eyes met mine. Recognition, shock, then something else. A flicker of guilt, maybe even calculation. She recovered faster than I did. "Hi," she said softly. "It's good to finally meet you." Finally meet me? As if she didn't already know me better than I wished she did. My fingers trembled. Daniel stepped between us proudly. "This is my big sister," he said with love, with pride, with absolute innocence. "The one I told you about." Emily smiled, and the smile didn't reach her eyes. "I've heard so much about you," she said. Yes, I was sure she had. Dinner was torture, wrapped in politeness. We sat around the table, plates filled, everyone pretending this was normal. My father talked about politics. Daniel talked about work. My mother forced laughter into the room like it was oxygen, like she was afraid everything would collapse if silence lingered too long. Emily played her part perfectly. She complimented the food, laughed at my father's old jokes, squeezed Daniel's hand under the table, and occasionally her gaze would slide to me, measuring, checking, waiting. When she spoke directly to me, her voice dipped into something almost fragile. "I hope we can get along," she said quietly, as we washed dishes side by side later. The running water masked our voices from others. "I know there's history, but I was younger. I made mistakes." Mistakes. That word, that tiny, innocent word she wrapped around what she did to me. She didn't just make a mistake. She didn't accidentally trip and destroy my life. Years ago, she humiliated me publicly with lies. She spread rumors. She encouraged things that spiraled. She stood back while people tore me apart. And when I needed someone to stand up for me, she crushed me harder. I stared at the soap bubbles swirling down the sink. "You didn't make a mistake," I said. "You made choices." Her jaw tightened. She glanced toward the living room, then leaned in. "Please," she whispered, her tone shifting, "don't ruin this for me." There it was. Not "I'm sorry," not "I regret what I did," not "I want to make things right." Just fear of consequences. "You don't deserve him," I murmured. She laughed under her breath, but there was no humor in it. "Maybe," she said, "but he loves me. And your parents, they want him happy. Be smart about this. Don't be the reason your family breaks." Her words hit like a slap. Not a threat, a reminder. I wasn't the fragile teenager anymore, but she remembered the old me, the quiet one, the good daughter, the girl who always sacrificed for peace. She didn't know how tired I was of bleeding quietly. Dinner ended. They left. The door closed. And before I could even exhale, my parents cornered me. My mother's voice trembled. "Please, please, don't make things difficult." My father sighed. "Life is too short to hold grudges. Let the past stay in the past." I looked at them, feeling something inside me shift permanently. "You want me to pretend," I said. They didn't deny it. "For your brother," my father replied. And that night, for the first time, I wondered, when did family stop meaning protection and start meaning silence?
Emily didn't stop there. She didn't just come back into my life. She started building a home in the middle of it. Over the next months, she wove herself into every corner of my family. She came to Sunday dinners. She helped my mom cook. She laughed loudly with my father while they washed dishes. She brought Daniel's favorite desserts, like she had memorized him inside and out. She charmed them. She charmed everyone except me. Our interactions were carefully choreographed. In front of others, she was sweetness wrapped in grace. Alone, her eyes hardened, like glass with cracks only I could see. One afternoon, I caught her in the hallway quietly deleting messages from Daniel's phone while he was in the bathroom. When she noticed me watching, she locked the screen calmly and smiled. "Privacy," she murmured. "We're all entitled to it, right?" There was something in her tone that made my skin crawl. That same day, my mother quietly asked me to try harder. She said it in that pleading way that sounds like love but feels like pressure wrapped in guilt. "She's going to be your sister-in-law," she whispered. "Can't you find it in your heart to move on? Move on, as if healing is just something you decide to do on command." I swallowed the anger, but anger, when buried, doesn't die. It ferments. It sharpens. It waits. The engagement announcement came suddenly. Daniel invited us all to a restaurant. Soft lighting, piano music, white tablecloths. I knew before they even said the words. I could feel the room vibrating with it. When he stood up and made the announcement, everyone exploded in joy, except me. I clapped because that's what was expected. I smiled because my parents were watching. And then Emily looked at me directly, holding my gaze. Her eyes said it clearly. I won. Later that night, she pulled me aside on the restaurant balcony. City lights burned quietly below us. The air was cold, and I could see my breath. She leaned closer, voice light and almost playful. "I know you hate this," she said softly, "but hate doesn't pay bills." "Hate doesn't give you security. Marriage does." "What are you talking about?" I asked. She shrugged casually. "Daniel is safe," she said. "He's stable, loyal, kind. He'll do anything for the person he loves." The words didn't sound romantic. They sounded like strategy. "He deserves someone who loves him," I said. "I do," she replied, too quickly, too confidently, in my own way, in her own way. Somewhere between the sound of traffic and the thumping music inside the restaurant, I realized something. She didn't love him. She needed him. And I didn't know why yet, but I would. Suspicion lives quietly at first. Then it starts whispering, then screaming. I'd tried to stay uninvolved. I really did, but every time I saw Daniel's face, trusting, hopeful, absolutely devoted, I felt my chest ache. If she broke him the way she broke me, I wasn't sure he'd ever recover. I needed to know who Emily was now, so I started paying attention. Little things. She always paid with Daniel's card. She never talked about her own family. She changed the subject when anyone asked about her job. She wore expensive handbags but never mentioned work accomplishments. She always had excuses when talk about finances came up. And one evening, while my family sat in the living room, she slipped and mentioned something she shouldn't have. My father had just made one of his classic money lectures. She smiled politely, nodding along, and casually said, "Well, at least Daniel won't end up like the last one." Silence. Daniel stiffened. My parents froze. I watched her. "The last one?" I said quietly. Her eyes flickered. "Just someone I dated," she replied. "It ended badly. He wasn't dependable financially." Financially. The way she said it. Cold, measured, transactional. Later, I looked her up. Social media gave nothing at first. Carefully curated photos, smiles, friends who all seemed temporary. But I kept digging, and eventually I found him, the last one. A man who posted heartbreak poetry on his page for 6 straight months, and one post that froze my blood. She took everything, my savings, my trust. She left when I couldn't give more. Below it, dozens of comments warning others about her. Different names, same face, same woman. I stared at my screen while my heart pounded. This wasn't impulsive. This wasn't immaturity. This wasn't youth. This was a pattern. And now she had my brother. I confronted my parents first. I printed everything. Screenshots, posts, comments, evidence. I took them to their house and laid everything on the table. My mother's hand shook as she read. My father's jaw tightened. I thought for a second I saw fear. Then they both looked at each other, and then at me. "We cannot destroy Daniel's happiness over online gossip," my father said slowly. "It might be exaggerated," my mother whispered. "People say all kinds of things after breakups." "She did this to me," I reminded them, my voice breaking. "You know what she's capable of. Why is it so hard to believe she could do it again?" My mother covered her face. "Because," she whispered, "we finally see him happy, truly happy, and we are tired of worrying about him." There it was. Truth. Raw. Unfiltered. They loved him so much they were willing to gamble his life. They were willing to sacrifice me again for the golden child, for peace, for the illusion of happiness. That night, I left their house with a quiet kind of pain, the kind that doesn't burn anymore, the kind that freezes. But frozen things don't stay still forever. They eventually crack, and I knew the wedding was coming, and with it, a truth that wouldn't stay buried much longer. The wedding planning swallowed my family whole. Suddenly, everything was flowers, venues, dress fittings, guest lists. My mother carried a notebook everywhere, filled with check marks and scribbles. My father agreed to pay for whatever Daniel needed. He said it proudly, like he was providing a legacy. Meanwhile, Emily smiled like a queen watching her kingdom prepare for her coronation, and I stood on the sidelines, a reminder of a truth everyone desperately wanted to forget. One evening, Daniel came to see me at my apartment. He sat on my couch, tapping his knee, clearly nervous. "I need to ask you something," he said softly. I nodded. "Emily told me about the past, about the fallout between you two." He ran a hand through his hair. "She said she hurt you. She said things got out of hand. She regrets it deeply." My stomach tightened. "And?" I asked. He swallowed. "She also said you might still resent her," he continued, "that maybe it's hard for you to be happy for us because of everything." There it was. She was rewriting the story. She wasn't the villain anymore, just a misunderstood girl haunted by a youthful mistake. "I don't resent you being happy," I said quietly. "I just want to be sure the person you're trusting deserves that trust." He leaned forward, eyes earnest, hopeful. "She does," he said. "I know she does. People change." My eyes burned. "Did you ask her why her last engagement ended?" I asked. He stiffened slightly. "She told me it wasn't right," he replied. "They weren't compatible." Compatible. That word again. Clean, painless, sanitized. "Did she tell you he accused her of draining his finances?" I pressed gently. His jaw tensed. He looked away. "I saw those posts," he admitted. "She told me he was unstable. She said he was obsessed with blaming her for his own mistakes. She asked me not to get dragged into it." "Daniel," I whispered, "please don't just believe the version that hurts the least." He looked at me with something like disappointment, like I had failed a test I didn't know I was taking. "I want you there at my wedding," he said, "but I need you to support this. Truly." He left with a quiet goodbye and a tired smile. I closed the door and leaned against it, sliding to the floor. That was when I realized something. Emily didn't just deceive people. She curated realities. She shaped narratives so softly, so gently, that the people inside them weren't even aware they'd been rewritten. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This wasn't about old wounds. This was about my brother walking willingly into a cage thinking it was home, and I couldn't let that happen. The rehearsal dinner took place 2 weeks before the wedding. A beautiful hall, warm lights, laughter bouncing against high ceilings, people toasting to love, future, family. I watched Daniel beam. I watched Emily glide from table to table like the perfect hostess. I watched my parents relax for the first time in years. And then someone walked in. A man, mid-30s, tired eyes, suit slightly wrinkled like life had worn him down, but he refused to fall apart. I recognized him immediately. The last one. He didn't come because of me. He came because Emily had left a trail, and he wasn't done being hurt. Emily saw him before Daniel did. Her face drained of color for one split second before she smoothed it back into composure. Too late. Daniel turned. Their eyes met. Silence swallowed the room. The man approached slowly, not dramatic, not theatrical, just steady, grounded in pain. "Emily," he said quietly. Daniel looked between them, fused. Emily laughed lightly. "What are you doing here?" He didn't answer her. He looked at Daniel instead. "You deserve to know who you're marrying," he said. Whispers fluttered across the room. My parents stiffened. Emily's smile cracked. Please leave, she murmured. This is inappropriate. But the man didn't raise his voice. He didn't yell. He simply spoke. She convinced me to invest everything with her, he said. Joint accounts, shared expenses, promises of a future. Daniel swallowed. She left when I couldn't keep up financially, the man continued, and she left me with debt I'm still paying. Emily shook her head, laughing nervously. He's lying. He's obsessed. He's been harassing me for years. He pulled out documents, not drama, proof, bank statements, contracts, text screenshots, things that didn't scream, they quietly destroyed. Daniel's face turned pale. My mother covered her mouth. My father stared at the papers like they were on fire. Emily reached for Daniel's hand. Baby, please. He stepped back. Her voice shifted instantly, soft, pleading, desperate. Daniel, listen to me. You know me. You know me. This is twisted. He's bitter. I left because he wasn't stable. And me? Everyone turned. Another voice. A woman stood up across the room. Then another. Different stories. Same pattern. It didn't explode. It unfolded. Slowly, painfully, unavoidably. Emily's mask shattered in stages. Her voice broke. Her arguments tangled. And finally, the truth stood alone. She didn't just ruin lives by accident. She harvested love, then left when there was nothing left to take. Daniel didn't yell. He didn't cry. He simply whispered, "Why?" Her shoulders sagged. And for the first time, I saw something real in her eyes. Fear. Not of losing him, of losing the security he represented. She didn't answer, because there was no answer that could save her. The engagement ended that night. Not with a dramatic scene, but with silence. Heavy, final, irreversible. Emily left quietly, escorted out, her heels clicking on marble floors like echoes of a story that was finally ending. But consequences aren't loud. They linger. They reshape relationships. They change how you see people. When the room emptied, my parents sat in silence. Daniel stared at nothing, and I just breathed. For the first time in years, without guilt, without pretending, just breathing. The days after the rehearsal dinner felt strangely quiet. Not peaceful, just quiet in that heavy, stunned way a house feels after a storm has ripped through it. Nothing looks the same. Everything you thought was sturdy reveals cracks you hadn't noticed before. Daniel didn't talk to anyone for 3 days. He didn't answer my calls. He didn't go home. My parents barely slept. My mother moved slowly around the kitchen like she was afraid sound itself would break something further. My father reread the newspaper without seeing a single word. On the 4th day, Daniel showed up at my apartment. He didn't knock gently. He leaned his forehead against the door like he had to gather strength just to be there. I opened it. He didn't say anything. He just pulled me into a hug. And he cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just quiet, painful shaking, the kind of grief that doesn't have screams left, only exhaustion. "I'm sorry," he whispered eventually. "I didn't listen. I should have." I shook my head. "No, you loved someone," I said softly. "That isn't something to apologize for." He sat on my couch, eyes red, hands clasped together. He looked smaller somehow, like part of his certainty had been stripped away. "Kept thinking," he murmured. "If I admitted something was wrong, I'd lose everything. I didn't realize that pretending was what would really destroy me." We talked for hours. Not about Emily, not entirely. We talked about childhood, about expectations, about how being the strong one is just another form of pressure, about how love without honesty isn't love at all. It's dependency, wearing a prettier dress. When he left, he hugged me again. "Thank you," he whispered, "for not letting me drown quietly." And in that moment, something between us healed, not because everything became perfect again, but because we finally saw each other clearly. Not golden child, not forgotten child, just siblings. Two flawed humans trying to figure out how to love each other better. My parents apologized too, awkwardly, slowly, imperfectly. My mother cried the most. "I wanted to protect him," she said. "I didn't realize I was hurting you again in the process." "I know," I replied. "But love doesn't mean choosing one child over another. It means believing both of us deserve safety." She held my face and nodded, tearful and remorseful in a way that felt genuine, not performative. My father took longer to speak. When he finally did, his voice was rough. "I thought keeping peace meant staying silent," he admitted. "I see now that silence was just cowardice dressed as calm. It wasn't absolution, but it was accountability. Sometimes sometimes that's the first step toward forgiveness. As for Emily, she disappeared from our lives. No dramatic final conversation, no grand apology, just absence. And honestly, that was enough. Some endings don't need confrontation. Some people don't deserve your final words. Just distance, just quiet, just freedom. Months passed. Life didn't magically turn beautiful, it just became honest. And there is a rare kind of beauty in honesty. Daniel went to therapy. My parents learned to pause before choosing peace over justice. And I learned something important too. Silence doesn't make you strong. Endurance doesn't make you noble. Sometimes strength is simply refusing to swallow pain that does not belong to you. Sometimes love means saying, I will not let this destroy us, even if your voice shakes, even if they don't believe you yet, even if they tell you to smile. One evening, we were all back at Sunday dinner. No tension humming under the table, no secret battles behind smiles, just food, just laughter, just a family trying again. My father poured me tea, my mother fussed about nothing, Daniel teased me about being dramatic, and I flicked a napkin at him while he laughed. It wasn't perfect, it was real. And real, I've learned, is worth more than perfect ever was. And if there's one thing I want anyone listening to my story to take away, it's this. You are not obligated to be silent for the sake of peace. You are not selfish for refusing to be hurt quietly. You are not the problem for telling the truth. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply refuse to smile when something inside you is breaking. So tell me, if you were in my place, would you have stayed silent, or would you have risked everything to protect someone you love? I really want to hear your thoughts. And if my story resonated with you, stay with me. There are more stories to tell, more lessons to learn, and more quiet strength to uncover. Thank you for listening.